Anyone watching though, Ben, build to rent, can you just, because a lot of people outside of lettings perhaps aren't as aware of the
sure. I mean,
the background of that.
And just to be clear, I'm out of lettings, have been for a few years, and build to rent was never anything we actually broke into in our old business. But it's large scale housing developed. I think genuinely fit for purpose housing.
Yeah.
It's designed with renters in mind as opposed to existing housing stock converted into lettings properties. I think it's institutional investment a lot of the time, but I may be corrected by Kristjan on that. And I think why it's really interesting, and so I can give you a case study where, and this may have been 10 years ago, where we were asked to help with some pricing, and quite often a large letting agent or a reasonable letting agent will be called in to help a developer set pricing and give some feedback on schemes. And we were asked to give some feedback on a development of 1,200 units in a reasonably small town. And we gave some feedback on pricing, looked great, looked brilliant, all the bells and whistles. But we also had to give a caveat that whilst this looks wonderful, you have to consider, we think you should consider the impact you're about to have on every other landlord that operates in this reasonably small town right now. You are about to blow the house they're offering out of the water. You're going to set the price point so that you're a little bit more expensive, but everything you get, you look like extraordinary value. And, you know, you live and you learn. We didn't win any business from being that honest and that transparent. But the facts remain that they were going to release 1,200 units in the space of something like 18 months, which is insane.
Huge. In a small town, that's amazing.
And this small sort of working class town that had reasonable links into London, very diverse community, that the landlords in that area, they were about to really be squeezed and no longer experience anywhere near the same level of demand. So build to rent I think is interesting, and I do think that there's a lot of that in our future as a sector. But as I say, you know, I've been out of lettings for a few years, so my finger is not completely on the pulse. The other thing I find interesting to Kristjan's point is twofold. There's so much more that needs to be done nowadays to stay compliant.
The regularisation.
Because I sell my business, I can't work in lettings.
So it's not a choice then.
In a couple of years I'll be able to, and I can assure you, in a couple of years I won't be going back into lettings.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about sales versus lettings in a bit. But anyway,
and I'm happy to talk about that. But so from a lettings perspective, I think it is mildly terrifying just how much is involved and the risk good landlords are exposed to. It feels like we've gone off a cliff edge here. We're a bit too extreme. We're penalising people for the sake of penalising them when they've made, you know, simple mistakes. That's not me saying we shouldn't consider safety and doing right by occupants. But I think there's a lot of risk. And Kristjan's point, maybe tech is going to support the agents in handling that risk. So my question would be maybe, you know, who's going to develop that piece of tech for landlords to use directly? Because there's huge opportunity there. And as people that work in the sector, we don't necessarily want to see that piece of kit.
No.
But that piece of kit represents a huge opportunity. If more than 60% of landlords are not being managed by an agent, they want to do it themselves, there's a huge market opportunity there. And then the final piece you asked Kristjan about was whether it's still a good investment. And I wonder, and I don't have any evidence really to support this other than maybe what I see on social media, because I don't interact with that many 20-year-olds anymore. What do they see as a great investment nowadays? Do they consider
the generations changed, shifted massively, and there's a lot of people just looking at renting as the future as well as themselves personally, as opposed to investing but owning their own home. Yeah, which I find really interesting. The reason I asked that question is the regularisation, which can offer an opportunity and a threat. Taxation. I mean, 8-9 years ago, this all started to really kick off.
Yeah, Section 24 is not great.
Landlords are exiting the market. I know we touched on that a little bit off camera. Open rents. So there's a lot of things for the majority of the letting agents to really consider.
Yeah,
but I suppose, is it just a point of perspective?
Look, I think there's always opportunity, right? It's just understanding what that opportunity is, and I think any market where you have a lot of different things going on, I always see as quite a sign of quite a healthy market. So yeah, look, how it plays out, no one knows. I mean, there's this AI cloud that is hovering over pretty much every aspect of our lives right
Does
now.
feel like a cloud,
And the great unknown of what that means in 5 to 10 years' time.
Do you think it's innovation or evaporation? What's your thoughts with AI in this particular sector?
God, I mean, I think it's quite exciting.
Yeah.
From a tech and operational perspective. From a societal perspective, I think the governments worldwide have got a lot of figuring out to do in the next 5 to 10 years.